Hi, I'm Lucy from Sew Essential and I'm here today to take a closer look at the Janome 360DC, just one of hundreds of sewing machines available on our site sewessential.co.uk. At Sew Essential, we pride ourselves on using our expert sewing knowledge to help you find the perfect machine for you. And that's why I've made this video, but we're also always available to support you by phone and email too. The 360DC includes all the same great features as the 230DC, but it also includes 30 extra stitches, bringing you to 60 in total. And those extra 30, they're not all just decorative stitches. Some of them are utility stitches and are designed to make some of those crucial key sewing tasks you might complete on a lot of projects just that bit easier. And I'll talk about that in more detail later in the video. It also comes with an extension table and a hardcover, which you don't always get with machines in this price bracket, a stop-start button so that you can sew without the foot control, a target button so that you can secure your stitches without having to reverse, needle up down for accurate sewing, a sliding speed control so you can sew at your own pace, and all the feet and accessories you need to get started. I'll pop a link in the corner of the screen so you can take a closer look at the machine on our site and purchase it. Later in the video, I'll go through what's in the box, but now let's take a closer look at what this machine can do for you. Threading the machine is easy and we start by winding the bobbin. Place a reel of thread on the spool pin and then secure it with one of the spool caps. You'll get two of these with the machine, different sizes for different size reels of thread. Take the loose end of the thread and bring it around the metal thread guide on top of the machine, making sure it clicks into place and you can feel some tension as you pull the thread. Take the loose end of the thread and feed it through one of the holes on the top of the bobbin. Pull it through and then place the bobbin on top of the bobbin winder and slide it to the right. Then just apply some pressure to the foot control to start winding the bobbin. Once you've done a few rotations, snip the excess thread and continue to wind the bobbin. It's also worth mentioning here that you'll notice a small square indentation on the top of the machine, and this is where you insert the second spool pin, which comes with the machine and allows you to sew with a twin needle, creating two parallel lines of stitches on the top of the fabric and a zigzag stitch underneath. I also want to point out here that the presser foot pressure dial is on the top of the machine and there are 6 different settings you can choose from there, and this is really useful when you're working with different kinds of fabric. To insert the bobbin, you can follow the handy little guide on the bobbin cover. But I always say to people, just remember, it should form a P. The thread should come down the left-hand side of the bobbin. Remove the bobbin cover and insert the bobbin into the case. Ensure that the thread comes through the little guide at the front and bring it round to the back. And if you pull the thread, you should feel some gentle tension on it. Then slide the bobbin cover back into position. To thread the needle, first of all, make sure the foot is in the up position. Use the lever under the arm of the machine to lift the foot. Next, bring the take-up lever up by turning the hand wheel towards you and you'll see it pop out of the gap on the top of the machine. Take the loose end of your thread and bring it round the thread guide with the arrow on the top of the machine, then follow the numbers down, across and back up to where the take-up lever is. Then bring the thread from right to left, making sure that it is secured in the metal take-up lever. Then bring the thread down the front of the machine. To finish threading the needle, press the needle up down button twice and that will bring the needle into the correct position for threading. Bring the thread behind the 2 thread guides here and here. Then gently pull the lever to bring the needle threader down. Take the thread from left to right through the relevant guides and across the front of the needle. Release the lever gently and that will pull a little loop of thread through, which you can then continue to pull through by hand. Take the thread and place it under the foot and towards the back of the machine. To bring the bobbin thread up, press the needle up down button twice and then gently pull on the needle thread, which will bring a loop of the bobbin thread up, and you can use a pair of scissors or something similar to gently tease the bobbin thread out and take it to the back of the machine. To start sewing, position your fabric underneath the foot and lower the foot. It's worth mentioning here that there is an additional foot lift on this machine, so I can lift the foot to the position it normally sits in, hovering above the fabric, but then I can also lift it again and create a lot more space between the needle plate or the fabric and the foot, and that's great for when you're working with thicker or bulkier fabrics. But when you're ready to start sewing, just put the foot down, and the first thing you'll need to do is to secure your stitches. There's two options to do this. The first one is to use the reverse button, which is the button with an arrow on it on the front of the machine here. If I hold that button down and then start to sew, it will sew backwards and that will secure the stitches, and then I can let go and sew in the normal way. So I'm just going to show you that now. So I'm going to hold that button down and then put my foot down on the foot control. And you can see it's sewn a few stitches backwards. I'm going to let go of that button now and continue to sew in the normal way. Now, sometimes you might not want to do a reverse stitch. You might want something that's less visible and super neat. And in that case, you can use the target stitch or fixed stitch button. If I press this button and then put my foot on the foot control, it will sew a few stitches in the same place to secure that line of stitching. So I'm just going to press the button now and then put my foot on the foot control. And you can see it's sewn a few stitches in the same position to secure that line of stitching. And it's a really neat finish. The other thing I should mention about the target button as well is that if you're sewing a decorative stitch and you press that button, it will complete the last full pattern before securing the stitches. Some of the other great features on this machine include needle up down, the sliding speed control and the start stop button. So I'm just going to give you a little run through of those now. Needle up down means that you can choose whether you want to finish sewing with the needle in the up position like it is now above the fabric, or if I press it, it will finish in the down position, securing the fabric. So if I sew my first row of stitches now, when I take my foot off the foot control, the needle finishes in the down position, securing the fabric. And this is great for things like pivoting corners. I can lift the foot now, rotate my fabric, and then continue sewing in a different direction. All the time I'm safe in the knowledge that my stitches aren't going to move out of line. It's a really useful feature for that, and it's really useful for just general accuracy as well. So if you're sewing some top stitching or you're doing something where you want that placement to be spot on, you can stop, you can lift the foot, you can check that everything's where it should be and be in full confidence about that before you continue stitching. And then if you want to change it and you want to finish with the needle in the up position again, just press the button again, and next time I sew, the needle will be in the up position. And if you're looking for little tips and techniques like this, do check out the tutorials on our channel. There's over 50 of them to help you and support you on your sewing journey. Now, the other feature that can really help with accuracy is using the sliding speed control. So at the moment it's on the maximum speed. But if I want to really slow things down because I'm feeling a bit underconfident or I'm doing something that requires real precision and accuracy, I can slide that control down to the slowest speed, and no matter how hard I press on the foot control, it will only sew at its slowest speed. So I had my foot right down on the control then, and it went really slowly, and that just gives me that confidence, it just gives me that accuracy, gives me that feeling of control. Then I can just slide it across to increase the speed again. The other option you've got is to sew without using the foot control. So if you're somebody who suffers with ankle pain, or sometimes you just want to give your foot a rest, you simply unplug the foot control from the machine, and then you use the start-stop button to start and stop sewing. So if I just press it once, it will start, press it again, and it will stop. And then I can use the sliding speed control to control how quickly I want the machine to sew while I'm using this feature. So we know that one of the great things about the 360DC is that you get 60 stitches included, and I'm going to talk about some of those a little bit more in a minute. But firstly, I just wanted to show you how easy it is to choose those different stitches and also how you can adjust them. So we do this by using the control panel here and these 4 arrows. And the first number on the control panel tells us which stitch we've selected. It also tells us above there which foot the machine recommends we use. The next number tells us the stitch width, which is automatically set by the machine but can be overridden in some cases. And the next number tells us the stitch length, which again is set by the machine but can be overridden in some cases. So if I now want to choose a different stitch to that standard straight stitch, I can just use the up arrow to move up the numbers or the down arrow to move down the numbers. However, if I was to do that to get to stitch number 60, I would be here for quite some time. So there is the option to use the across arrow to just select that first digit, and then I can use the up and down arrows to move up and down the tens until I've got to where I want to be, and then I can use the right arrow to then select the units and move up and down those stitches more easily. If I want to adjust the stitch width, I move the cursor across using these arrows again, and then I know I can't increase that stitch width beyond 7 because that is the maximum stitch width on this machine, but I can use the down arrow to decrease it. I can then move across to the stitch length, and again I can use these arrows depending on which stitch I've selected to adjust that stitch length. So you might want to do that most commonly with a straight stitch. You might want to make your stitches really long so that you can sew a tacking stitch and tack something together and have a practice run, and then it's easy to rip out afterwards. You might want to sew a zigzag stitch over the end of a concealed zip if you've shortened it. And you might want to make those stitches nice and wide to do that, to make sure you've covered that area. But you can see how easy it is to navigate between the stitches and also to adjust that stitch width and stitch length. Let's take a closer look at the stitch chart, because you do get 60 stitches with this machine, which is 30 more than you would get with the 230DC, which is the next model down. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, the additional 30 stitches aren't just decorative stitches, you get additional utility stitches as well. And by a utility stitch, I mean the sorts of stitches that you use to complete standard sewing techniques that you're going to need to use time and time again on different sewing projects. So you get an additional overcasting stitch, which is designed for knit fabrics. You also get additional blind hem stitches, so you've got more choice there. You also get more options with your applique stitches, and that helps you to work with different weights of fabric, but also helps you to navigate your way around the appliques more easily. Plus, you get 7 different styles of buttonhole as opposed to 3. And these different styles of buttonhole are designed to be used with different types of fabric and on different garments. They've got a specific purpose in mind. So if you're somebody who thinks, I really would like to get to the point where I'm trying different types of fabric, I'm making different types of garment, that is a great feature for you. And I'll give you an example. Number 55, the buttonhole with the rounded end, that is designed to be used on jackets and coats because that rounded end enables the buttonhole to open wider, and that enables the thicker and chunkier buttons we tend to use on those sorts of garments to pass through the buttonhole more easily. Plus, it's also a stronger buttonhole, so it's going to withstand that regular use much better than some of the other buttonholes. To change the presser foot, press the black button on the back of the needle bar and the foot will be released. To replace it with an alternative foot, line the bar on the top of the foot up with the groove on the bottom of the needle bar and click it into place. And while we're here, I've attached the zipper foot, and I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk to you about the fact that this machine also comes with several needle positions. When you're in a straight stitch, you can use the stitch width option to move the needle to the left or to the right, and there's actually 15 different positions that come with this machine. So you might be wondering, well, when would I use that? But it's actually really useful for so many different sewing tasks. For example, if you want to sew a zip, this needle position is the standard one, but actually you can see you're not very close to the teeth there. If I use the up-down arrows on the control panel, I can move that needle a lot closer to those teeth. And it's also useful for things like sewing piping or anywhere where you want real precision and accuracy. There's a handy accessory case for storing feet and bobbins, which also removes from the machine and gives you a free arm, which is a great feature for when you're working on things where you need to sew in the round, like a cuff or a neckline perhaps. You can slide the fabric over the end of the free arm and it just makes it much easier to work with. When the accessory tray is removed, it also enables you to attach the free extension table which comes with this machine. And this is a brilliant feature because normally you have to purchase these separately, but it is included with the 360DC. And the reason why an extension table is so useful is that it massively increases your work area. So if you're working on a bigger project like a coat or a quilt or some curtains, it increases the space that you've got to manoeuvre that fabric around the machine as you sew. It's also useful if you're working with a fabric that's quite heavy or you're worried about it hanging off the front of the machine as you sew. You can use this as an extra support area to prevent that from happening. At the back of the machine, you've got the option to drop the feed dogs. Slide the lever across and you'll notice the feed dogs drop beneath the needle plate. This enables you to sew free motion embroidery, where you can move the fabric in any direction as you sew, effectively drawing with the thread to create patterns and pictures on your fabric. So if you're impressed with all the lovely features on this machine, click the link on the screen to visit our website and take a closer look or purchase it. In the box you'll find everything you would expect: an instruction manual, a foot control, some spare bobbins, some spare needles, different size spool caps, a screwdriver, brushes, an unpicker, and you'll also find those 6 sewing machine feet to get you started and tackle all the most important sewing tasks. You'll find a standard zigzag foot, a satin stitch foot for the decorative stitches, an automatic one-step buttonhole foot which will automatically sew the right size buttonhole for your button, a blind hem foot, an overcasting foot for neatening seams, and a zipper foot. And then once you've got to grips with all those techniques, you might think, oh, I'd like to start stretching my sewing skills a little bit further. You might like to buy a piping foot or an invisible zipper foot. And if that's the case, you can check out our website where there's a really wide range of feet and accessories for this machine. Just click the link and look for the Janome Category B feet and accessories. And if you need any help at all, don't hesitate to contact us because we're always here to offer you support after the purchase of your machine. I've given you a good overview of the 360DC, but if there's anything else that you'd like some more information on or a little bit more help with, don't hesitate to get in contact. We're always here to support you because we love sewing as much as you do. All of our machines come with a full manufacturer's warranty, so that's 2 years with the 360DC. And in the unlikely event that you have a problem, don't hesitate to contact us. More often than not, we can resolve any issues over the phone, but if that isn't the case, we'll collect the machine from you and organise everything for you. We offer the best prices, but if you do see this machine cheaper anywhere else, don't hesitate to contact us and we'll be happy to help. All of our machines are delivered by courier the next working day, and you'll get a dedicated time slot so you know exactly when to expect it. I hope you're feeling really excited about your new machine. Thanks for watching.